يهد له فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده رب لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم عما بعد يا معشر المسلمين. As we want to take a benefit inshallah ta'ala, and this benefit that we want to mention is taken from the works of in the works of Riyadh al-Salihin by Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, explained by the noble Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan hafidahullah ta'ala. So it is mentioned in the hadith of An-Nawas ibn Sam'an. An-Nawas ibn Sam'an, may Allah be pleased with him, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, piety is noble character. Al-bir husnu khuluq wal-itham ma haqqa fi nafsik. He mentions piety is noble character, but sin is what comes to your mind and you dislike that the people become aware of it. Piety is noble character, but sin is what comes to your minds and you dislike for the people to become aware of it. So this was mentioned, it was narrated by An-Nawas ibn Sam'an radiyallahu anhu. He mentions that the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam has mentioned this hadith, and the Shaykh hafidahullah, Shaykh Fawzan, he is going to explain this hadith. He mentions sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as we want to repeat the hadith for those who are just now coming in. For those who are just now coming in, we want to repeat the hadith inshallah. An-Nawas ibn Sam'an, he said that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said piety is noble character, but sin is what comes to your mind and you dislike for the people to find out or to be aware of that sin. So it is mentioned that this hadith, and Wabisa ibn Ma'bad, he says, I came to the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wassalam, and he said, you came to acquire about piety. You came to acquire about righteousness, about piety. And I mentioned this a week ago or two in regards to righteousness. I mentioned this talk in regards to righteousness and piety, because this is something that we are lacking in. This is something that we are lacking in. We are lacking in righteousness and being piety and being pious and righteous. And we are falling short of this. So we want to bring this about so that we can, so that this can be a reminder for us, so that we can take this and benefit from this and put into action put into action righteous deeds, righteous conduct. So it is mentioned, and Wabisa ibn Ma'abat radiallahu anhu, he said, I came to the messenger of Allah and he said, you came to acquire about piety. I said, yes. He said, search your heart or search your mind. Piety is what the soul is at ease with, and the heart finds tranquility in it. In the heart, it finds tranquility in it. For future reference, inshallah ta'ala, this is a knowledge-based class, and if you can kindly be respectful, we will ask you to be respectful. And if you don't have any good words to say, then you can kindly leave. You can kindly leave leave from this, so that you won't be disturbing anyone that is trying to benefit, so that you won't be disturbing my class, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. For those who are listening, for individuals, whether they be Muslim or non-Muslim, we ask that you have some respect. And if you do not want to listen, then you can kindly go. Barakallahu fikum. So it is mentioned that this is mentioned, and this is basically pertaining to the topic that I'm speaking about, of righteousness and having good conduct and being pious and being righteous. This is pertaining to this topic that I am speaking about, as it is mentioned, وَأَنْ وَابِصَةٍ ابن معبد قال أتيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that he mentions, I came to the messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, and he said, you came to acquire about piety. You came to acquire about piety. I said, yes. He said, search your mind. Piety is what the soul is at ease with. Righteousness is what the soul is at ease with. And sin is what wavers in the heart. That which is evil, of evil conduct, and the things that the person does of action, and that which the person says, that which the person spew out of his mouth, is what wavers in his chest. But sin is what revolves in your mind and brings hesitation in the heart, even when people give you rulings and telling you what to do. So this hadith, we were given the report from al-Musnad of two great scholars, of Ahmed ibn Hanbal and Ad-Darimi, with the Hasan chain of transmission. This narration or this hadith, it is authentic. This hadith that we mentioned, it is authentic. And then it is mentioned, قوله البر حسن خلق, البر حسن خلق. Piety is noble character. Piety, it is noble character. That is to say, أحسن خلق, it is noble character. نوعا عظيم, that mother, it is one of the important aspects of piety. Righteousness, noble character, it is one of the aspects. من أنواع البر وليس أن البر كله. As the Shaykh Hafidahullah, Shaykh Fawzan, he mentions that this righteousness, this good character, this pious character, this noble character, that is to say, good conduct, is one of the important aspects of righteousness. This does not mean that piety entirety is restricted to good conduct, but rather it only means that good conduct is the most important form of piety, such as his sayings, such as the saying of the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam, al-hajjul arafah, that the hajj, that the pilgrimage is the arafah. And then it is mentioned, mada, and staying at the arafah is not all of the pilgrimage. It is not all of it. Just like good conduct is not all of that which is righteous. Having good conduct that's not all of it, but that is part of it. So he mentions hafidahullah, that the pilgrimage entails even that mada, and staying at Arafah is not all of the pilgrimage. It's not all that what the pilgrimage entails, even though it is most important. It is the most important pillar of the pilgrimage. And like this, then he mentions ad-du'a huwa al-ibad. Ad-du'a huwa al-ibad. The supplication, it is worship, but it is not all of the worship. Supplication, making du'a, right? This is part of piety. This is part of righteousness, but it is not all of it. Ya ayyuhal ikhwa. But in spite of the fact that supplication is only one of the forms of worship, this is one of the aspects of worship, although it is the greatest form of worship. So therefore, good conduct is an important aspect of piety. Good conduct, righteousness, it is very important in the life of the Muslim. It is not befitting that the individual is a Muslim, but then he has bad conduct, but then he curses. It is not befitting for the Muslim to pray, but he still drinks, or he still smokes, or he still listens to music. This is from the bad mannerisms and character. But from this aspect that we want to mention is that character, having good character, right? Being righteous, striving to be upright, striving to have good character, striving to change your situation, or change your conduct and how you act and how you carry yourself. Then it is mentioned وَحُسْنُ خُلُقٍ مَعْنَهُ مَاذَا, that noble character, it means having a big heart. Having a big heart, having a big heart and cheerfulness in meeting the people. Husnul khuluq is having the big heart and meeting the people with a cheerful face. Then he mentions, and dealing with the people in a nice manner. As a messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, he mentions about this noble character, is that a person, he has a big heart, he has a cheerful face, and when meeting the people, he smiles in the face of his Muslim brother, or the sister smiling in the face of her Muslim sister, and the likes like that. This is from the aspect of having a good character and dealing with the people in a nice manner, and dealing with the people in a nice manner, and relate with the people with good character. وَخُلُقُ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقِ الْحَسَنِ, relate with the people with good manners, good conduct, good character. You find today that individuals interact with each other, but they have the most despicable of character. They have the most despicable of character. So this is something that we need to work on. Character is something that is important, right? Yes, the Muslim, he can pray 5 times a day, fast during the month of Ramadan, ila al-akhiri, but he has bad character, wa'iyadhu billah. And this is the attribute of the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam. As Allah Jalla wa Ala, he mentions in the Quran about the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلِقٍ عَظِيمٍ, that he mentions that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says in the Quran, verily, O Muhammad, you are on the exalted standard of character. So this affair of good character, ya ayyuhal ikhwa, so husnul khuluq, يشتمل على الخيرات يشتمل يشتمل على الخيرات كثيرة. Good character embodies a lot of good, and it attracts the people's love to the one with good character. It attracts the people to you. It attracts individuals to you, as opposed to the person having bad character. It makes the people run away from you. It makes the people turn away from you. He mentions Sheikh Fawzan Hafidahullah Ta'ala, فحسن خلق يشمل يشتمل على الخيرات كثيرة ويكسب عنه ويكسب محبة الناس لصاحبه خلق حسن. Good character embodies a lot of good, and it attracts the people's love for the one with good character. And likewise, if someone inviting people to the path of Allah, if someone is inviting the people to Islam, is giving them da'wah, calling them to Islam, inviting them to the path of Allah, and he has good character with that, he has good character while doing that, such will lead the guidance of the people by their accepting his call. بِسَبَبِ حُسْنُ خُلُقٍ, on account of his good character, as opposed to a person speaking but he's interacting with the people in a bad manner. So the people, they are not going to accept his call. The people, they are not going to accept it from him because of the bad character that he has with him. And this is the most crucial aspect of piety. So he mentions, and then it is mentioned in the hadith, as we mentioned the hadith pertaining to good character. Then he mentions sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith, and it is mentioned about the sin. It is mentioned about the sin, that the sin, it wavers in your chest, or you hate for the people to find out about it. He mentions that قال والإثم هو ضد البر. الإثم هو ضد البر. ماذا? And that's, but the sin, and that is the opposite of piety. ضد البر. الإثم يعني ضد البر. It is the opposite of righteousness. It is the opposite of piety. He mentions, as the Shaykh Hafidahullah, he explains, ماذا والإثم هو ضد البر. He says, and that is the opposite of piety. Sin is the opposite of piety, and transgression that comes from the conduct. It comes from the conduct of the individual, his deeds and his statements. And what comes to your mind, that mada, sin, is what wavers in your chest, or it comes to the mind of the individual. Meaning it occurs in the heart. It occurs to the heart, and the heart says it. It comes to the heart. So now that the heart says it, but the person dislike it. In another version, as the Shaykh mentions, he says, and it brings hesitation to the heart. It brings hesitation to the heart. He says, if the individual doubts whether to express it or not, this shows that this is a sin. It shows that this is a sin because a person, he is hesitant in saying it. He is hesitant. The individual, he is doubtful. He has doubts whether he should say this, whether he should say it or not. If the individual doubts whether to express it or not, this shows that it is a sin. So he mentions Hafidahullah, and the heart here refers to the heart of a pious believer, of the righteous believer. As for the sinful person, he is not he is not a scale to judge piety and sin. You don't judge piety and sin by that sinful individual, but rather it refers to the pious Muslim, to the righteous Muslim, whose approval and rejection of something is considerable. So the one who hates expressing a thing and dislike that people should find him upon it, such it is a proof that it is a sin. And this is a must that we also, when we commit a sin, when we do something that we're not supposed to do, we hide our sin, hide our faults. You find today the people, they're broadcasting the things that they're doing. They're showing the sin that they're committing, right? You find from the people, from the young people, and other than the young people, right? They are broadcasting their sin. They are displaying the evil things that they're doing, whether it be smoking a cigarette, or smoking weeds, or drinking, or clubbing. They are displaying that, and they are expressing it. They are openly displaying what they are doing. They're openly displaying what they are doing, and we should, if you are upon that, if you are doing that, then you should hide your sin. Hide your sin. In no way or shape or form that I am condoning it. I am not condoning it. But if you're going to commit a sin, you shouldn't broadcast it. Let the people know what you're doing. As you find the young people today, they saying, I'm outside. I'm outside, and they are displaying their sins. They are showing the people their sins. But sin, it's something that wavers in your heart. It wavers in your chest, and you hate for the people to find out about it. So the one who hates expressing a thing and dislikes that people should find him upon it, such is a proof that it is a sin. So leave and avoid it. The believer's heart is a yardstick. As the Shaykh, he mentions, Hafidahullahu Tabaraku wa Ta'ala. So this is a principle. This is a principle. The Shaykh, he mentions, فهذا أصل العظيم وهذا الحديث من جوامع الكلم. This is an important principle, and this hadith is amongst the concise phrases bestowed upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jawamil kalim, a concise expressions. Mada, all encompassing it. This refers to the plural of the words jam', al-jam', all inclusive. This applies to the mada, to the plural of the words, which are expressions that entail comprehensive meanings, and that is the quality of his speech, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nam ya ayyuhal ikhwa. And this hadith of Wabisa ibn Ma'bad, that he came to the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam, and he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked him, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam preceded him and said to him, you came to acquire about piety. You came to ask about righteousness and piety. And he said, shall I inform you, or will you ask me? Shall I inform you, or will you ask me? So Al-Wabisa ibn Ma'bad radiyallahu anhu, he said, no, tell me. Then he, alayhi salatu wassalam, he said, Mada. He says, shall I inform you, or would you ask me? He mentions, you came to acquire about sin. You came to acquire about sin. This is among the signs of prophethood. This is from amongst the signs of the prophethood of the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam, informed him of what Wabisa became Mother before he even asked him, that he knew before the companion even came and asked him. So he explained to him that piety is what the soul is at ease with. Righteousness is what the soul is at ease with. Al-bir, mother, is what the soul is طمعة or مطمئنة. اطمعنت إليه نفسه or نفسه. واتمع إليه قلبه. He mentions that piety is what the soul is at ease with, and the heart finds tranquility in it. It finds tranquility in it. Then he mentions, Hafidahullah, he explains this hadith as Sheikh Fawzan, he explained in these hadith, wa tutma'innahu diddu mother, he says that tranquility is the opposite of unrest and confusion. It refers to the stability and a lack of haste and unrest. Tranquility is tranquil is stable, and the opposite are the confused and the uneasy. What the soul is at ease with, and the heart finds tranquility in that. That is the heart and the mind of the believer. وَالْإِثْمُ مَا حَقَّ فِي نَفْسِي وَكَرِهَتْ أَنْ يَطَّلِعَ عَلَيْهِ النَّاسِ وفي رواية آخر وترد في صدري. He mentions, but sin is what comes to your mind, and you dislike that the people become aware of it. وفي رواية, in another narration, it reads, and it brings hesitation to the heart. So it may occur to you to commit sin, but you would not be bold enough to show it. And if it were righteousness, you would not have hesitated to make it known. So he mentions, hence, the hesitation is proof that it is a sin, because Allah Jalla wa'ala has put light in the hearts of the believer and knowledge of good and evil. Naam ya ibadullah. So then he mentions an ayat in the Quran where Allah Jalla wa'ala, he mentions, in tatakullah yaj'al lakum furqanan. In tatakullah yaj'al lakum furqanan. And if you obey and fear Allah Jalla wa'ala, he will grant you a furqan, a criterion to judge between the right and the wrong. So this says, يعني القلب المؤمن, that the القلب المؤمن يعني مطمئن, that it is at ease, it is at rest. And the sin, يعني العثم والعثم ما حق في نفسي وكرهت أن يطلع عليه الناس. And also that the sin, but the sin is what comes to your mind, and you dislike that the people are aware of it. So then he mentions, إن تتقوا الله يجعل لكم فرقانا. And this يعني الفرقان, the word al-furqan, as the Shaykh he mentions, it means al-furqan هو تمييز بين الخير والشر. As the Shaykh Hafidahullah, he mentions that يعني الفرقان, معنى الفرقان, he said هو تمييز بين الخير والشر. He says al-furqan, it means distinction between good and evil, and the harmful and beneficial. It is a distinction. It is the al-furqan. It means ماذا? It is بين الخير والشر. It means to distinguish the good, from the evil, and the harmful and the beneficial. This is what it meant. This is what is meant by al-furqan. So Allah puts al-furqan in the heart of the believer in order to distinguish between good and evil. Then he, alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, وَإِنَّ أَفْتَكَ النَّاسِ وَأَفْتَكَ أو أفتك. Na'am. He mentions, he says, even when the people give you rulings, right? Even when you go to somebody and somebody give you something, they give you a ruling on something and say, this is khayr. They tell you that this is good, or this is bad, or this is yani kada wa kada. Even when the people give you rulings telling you what to do. This meaning aftaka, giving you rulings, wa madha aftoka, tell you what to do, implying the same thing. However, this is a form of emphasizing, because the consideration is not merely for a ruling from the scholar. Your own soul matters. Your own soul is what tell you, yani, this thing is not right. Something is not right about this. My heart just don't feel right. I don't feel, yani, I don't feel right by this. Your heart, if yani, ask your heart or contemplate, yani, your heart would tell you whether this thing is right or wrong. Your heart will narrate, it will communicate with you to let you know that this situation, or this, yani, this whatever this thing is, something is not right about it. Something is not right about it. I just don't feel right. Yani, wallahu a'lam. And then you say Allah knows best, but something is not right. I just don't feel right about it. Your heart is telling you. Your heart is communicating with you. SubhanAllah. So he mentions this is a form of emphasizing, because the consideration is not merely for a ruling. It's not what, individuals are telling you. You go to another, just like you find individuals going to this person and going to that person to get a ruling, or to get some clarity, but your heart is still not at ease with it. Your heart is still not at ease with that situation. So if you find your soul at ease with the verdict, if you find your soul is at ease with the, for instance, مثلا, what the Shaykh is telling you, you find your heart is at ease with it. You find your heart is accepting this advice, or accepting that which the Shaykh is telling you. He mentions, Hafidahullah, if you find that your soul is at ease with the verdict, then such is piety, then this is righteousness. But if you find your soul disliking the thing, then that is a sin. If you find your soul disliking the thing, then that is a sin. So the scholars is not infallible. The ulama, they are not infallible, as you find individuals, doing this, going to this sheikh to get a verdict, going to that sheikh to get a verdict. But their heart, it is not at ease with the verdict, then this shows you this is a sin. But if your soul, if your heart is at ease with the verdict, then this is piety, this is righteousness, as the Shaykh he mentions. And then also he mentions, Hafidahullah, that, when the sheikh gives the verdict, he mentions that he is not infallible. He could err or respond based on what is apparent without knowing about what is hidden regarding the matter. And also, the scholars may be misguided, scholars, and they are all not the same. So if you individuals go to this scholar to get a verdict, go to that scholar to get a verdict, and then the sheikh, he mentions that that scholar may answer the question based upon that which is apparent without knowing about what is hidden regarding the matter, and he may make a ruling based upon that. So this shows you that the scholars are not infallible. Then he mentions the scholars you may have misguided scholars. The scholars they're all not the same. Naam ya ayyuha al-ikhwa. So he mentions the important thing is that فَالْمُهِمْ, the important thing is that do not rely on the verdict until your soul feels relaxed. Do not rely on what individuals are telling you until your soul is at ease and relaxed, until you feel comfortable. Do not rely on the verdict until your soul feels relaxed with it. That's just like, like I was in Mecca, when I went to Mecca, mashallah, when I went to make the Hajj, I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it. When I went to make the Hajj, and I found myself making a mistake when I was, making the Umrah. When I was making the Umrah, I forgot the number, I forgot the count that I did when I was making the tawaf. When I was going between Safa and Marwa, I forgot the number. I lost count. So then, you know how they have, if you can go and ask some of the mashaykh, if you can go to one of those. I forget the name, the number of the building, but you can go and ask the sheikh if you for a verdict or whatever. And even though the sheikh had gave me a verdict, even though the sheikh said yajuz, the sheikh said that it was permissible, but my heart didn't sit right with it. My heart still wasn't right. Even though the sheikh had told me that it's permissible or there's nothing wrong or it's okay, but my heart wasn't right with it. Subhanallah. So the sheikh Hafidahullah, Sheikh Fawzan, he says, the important thing is that do not rely on the verdict until your soul feel relaxed with it, until your soul is at ease with the verdict. Don't just, a lot of the people, they say na'am, Sheikh, na'am. They, without actually, without, doing some, introspection, meaning their heart is not at ease with the situation. They saying na'am sheikh, but their heart is still not at ease with it. Something is not right about that situation. Unlike with me, I wasn't, so when I was in Mecca, I just did it again. I just went and made the tawaf again, because my heart wasn't, completely, I wasn't at ease with the error that I have did, and then I wasn't at ease with the verdict that the sheikh has given me. So I decided, I decided to do it again. I decided to make it again. So he mentioned, such is proof that it is the truth and piety. However, if your soul detests the verdict, being uncomfortable up with it, you're not comfortable with the verdict, then leave it, because some people with inclination and desire for something would say, as long as so-and-so has issued this verdict, there's nothing upon me, and this is upon him, as they say. SubhanAllah. Look what the Shaykh, Hafidahullah, he says. We want to repeat it again, inshallah. So the Shaykh, he says, in regards to, when a person comes, or, he goes to the Shaykh, or he goes to a Shaykh to get a verdict. The Shaykh, Hafidahullah, he says that if your soul detests the verdict, if your soul rejects the verdict or it detests it, and you're uncomfortable upon it, you're uncomfortable with the verdict, then leave it. Because some people with inclination, the desire for something would say, as long as so-and-so has issued this verdict, there's nothing upon me, and this is upon him. So what we say to him, so-and-so person can avail you in any way from Allah. So-and-so person cannot avail you in any way from Allah Jalla wa Ala. So he mentions Hafidahullah, and he says, he neither knows the unseen, nor is he infallible. You do not know the level of his righteousness and religion. So do not rely merely on a verdict until you present it to your soul. Until your soul, check yourself. Check your soul. Ask yourself. Ask your soul. Yourself will tell you if this situation is good or not. Yourself, your soul will tell you if this situation is good or not. If you find your soul at ease with it, and there's no hesitation in and there's no hesitation in you or dislike, hold on to it. But if you notice the contrary, abandon it. This is an important yardstick, and a believer should employ regarding verdicts. Regarding verdicts, we want to go to this person, to that one, to get a fatwa, to get a verdict. But the Shaykh, he mentions, ask your heart. Consult your soul first. Do you feel comfortable with this verdict? Do you feel comfortable with how this situation is occurring? Yourself, your soul will tell you, yes or otherwise. So he mentions today, people's compliment or people complaints are much regarding abundance of verdicts and those issues and those that issue them. However, this is the standard that would help you distinguish among these verdicts. Whether your soul is at ease with from among them is the truth, but whatever your soul detests among it, that is the evidence that it is that is in error. That is the evidence that it is in error, and you are required to avoid it. Do not say so and so issued the verdict. He will be held accountable. He will bear his own sin, and you will bear yours too. He cannot avail you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way. So, in summary, we want to mention what we discussed in the beginning pertaining to this hadith. It was collected an Nawas ibn Sam'an. And Nawas ibn Sam'an, he mentions, he said, piety is noble character, but sin is what comes to your mind and you dislike that the people become aware of it. And this is collected in Muslim. This is collected in Muslim. Then it is mentioned, Wabisa ibn Ma'bad, may Allah be pleased with him. He said, I came to Allah's messenger, and he said, you came to inquire about piety. I said, yes. He said, search your mind. Piety is what the soul is at ease with, and the heart finds tranquility in it. But sin is what revolves in the mind and brings hesitation to the heart, even when the people give you rulings telling you what to do so. Na'am. So, as it is mentioned in this hadith, that righteousness, piety, is rather good character. Piety, righteousness is good character, and sin is what wavers in your mind, right? What wavers in your mind, and Yani you feel at ease, you feel uncomfortable. You're not yani content. You feel uncomfortable about the situation. So this is what the sin does. Sin is what wavers in your mind and your chest. Or you hate for the people to find out about it. And piety is righteousness, is good conduct. Is good conduct and good character. And so, as the Sheikh he mentions in this hadith as well, is that even when people tell you, they give you a verdict about something, or they say yes to you. They say yes to you, but then your heart is not at ease with it. Your heart, your soul is telling you contrary. It's telling you otherwise. It's on your conscience, it is on your mind. So this is what we want to bring about of benefit. Bi-idhnillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. Any shortcomings from me, it was from myself. And any good that came from this beneficial reminder was from Allah Jalla wa Ala. Sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Any questions pertaining to the class? We mentioned in regards to the hadith of Nawas ibn Sam'an, and then we mentioned in Wabisa ibn Ma'bad. Any questions pertaining to what we mentioned for those who are listening? I'll take one or two questions, inshallah, pertaining to the topic. One question, one or two questions pertaining to the topic. Inshallah, one question. If not, then we will end. Inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. We will take questions pertaining to the topic. If not, then we will end. Bi-idhnillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.